Hello, welcome to my version of a Roblox tutorial for a billboard GUI. First step is we're going to enable everything we need to be able to view any errors, anything we need to access basically. So as you can see, my studio looks a little bit different from yours. Normally with everything I currently have enabled, it would look sort of something like this. If I can please adjust this. This is what you should be seeing by default. The way I prefer is I have everything on one side and my command or my output visible and up here. Normally when you open this issue, it will also be down there. If I were to disable the command bar and then shoved it down there. This is what you would see if you had all these enabled. As you can see, the screen's not that Basically, the way I do it is I take this out and I shrink it to just about the right size. I take properties, I shove it in the Explorer, make it after the Explorer, and I take the toolbox and I drag it to properties and I slide it over. That way, I have more workspace on my screen. Alright, now that we've gotten that out of the way and you're up to date with me, let's continue. I want to take a note that this is what I would prefer to do. If you wish for me to explain it a different way, I will try my best to help you in the comments. First off, what you want to do is you want to go to Home and click Part. This will create a part for us to work with. This will be our visual for the billboard GUI. What you want to do now is click the little plus in the Explorer tab, type in billboard GUI. As you can see, our only result is a billboard GUI. Now that we've added this to the part, what we need to do for our visual is add a frame. We get 3 here, but we want this one that just says frame. As you can see, it doesn't look right. It's in the block and it's not correct. So let's say this is the head of a player. Okay. Normally it's just 2 wide with 1 like that. So that's about the Robloxian head. Now we want it to be above the head. So what you want to do is go to the billboard GUI, hit properties. Normally people would like to have you do it with the set offset. If you were to do that, it does that. But the only thing about that is it moves weirdly, as you can see. Let me go ahead in the game and show you properly. So if I were to walk over here, you can see it's above the head, because this is the point. It's above the head like it's supposed to. But if I were to look down, it's moved in front of the player now. What I would prefer is that you leave this as 0, 0, 0, and then you want to go to Extent Offset World Space. This is where you want to put the 2 at. That way, it's above the head and it's always in the same position. As you can see, there's the point that we were looking at. And if I were to do this, it stays with the head. It looks a little weird because we have not fixed the size. To fix the size, what we want to do is change the scale. The offset is what's currently set by default, which causes this box to extend always. As you can see, it's getting bigger and bigger to stay with the screen. We do not want that. We want it to stay the same size since it's a player overhead GUI. To fix that, we need to change the offsets to 0. The scales really is up to you. What I would do is have a scale of 3 and then a scale offset of 0.2. My apologies. The reason it still looks like this is because you have to go into frame, hit properties, change the size scale to 1, and the offsets to 0. There you go. That's what it currently looks like. If I were to fix it now, change this from 0.1 to 1, that's what we get. Now, if I were to zoom out, it shrinks. That's what we want. Now, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger for this demonstration purposes. Alright, there we go. I've changed it from 5 of scale, 0 of offset for X, 1.5 scale, and 0 offset for Y. Now, I'm going to adjust this one more time to 2.5. Now it's above the player's head. Now, what I'll be adding to this overhead is the player's name and their role in your group. So I'm going to make this transparent by heading properties and change the background transparency to 1. Now it's gone. But you're going to be like, wait, they can't see it. That's wrong. They can't see that white box anymore. Unless you want that, that's completely fine. It's up to you. Now, what we're going to add is a text label, which is just a visible text on the screen. Now, what we're going to do is change the offset of X to 1, and then the Y offset to 0.5. My apologies, it's scale, not offset, is what we're wanting to change. I clicked the wrong box by mistake, so I do apologize for that. Now we're going to make it transparent. We're going to come down here to the text area, which will take this label and change that. I'm going to name this, for the tutorial purpose, the username. That way I can know which is which. So what we're wanting to do is we're going to make it look the type of game we want. So we want text scale to fit this entire blue box. And I'm going to change this to light. And I'm going to name this username because we'll update this later. I'm also going to make it white, which is 255, 255, 255. And I'll be turning on the text stroke transparency by setting this to 0. And that's what is returned. I'll also be adding another one. If you click this, hit copy. Right click this, hit paste into. We're going to rename this to the rank, which is what's displayed of what role you are, such as guest, player, admin, or owner. Then we want to go to the properties of rank, go up to position. We want to change the Y's scale to 0.5, which will put it below it. And for the placeholder, I will set this to rank. That way, that's what it currently looks like, above the player's head. Now, to be able to obtain the player's username and the player's rank, we need to define a script to define what's going to happen. So in the billboard GUI, we're going to be adding a script, which would be this last option right here, not module script or local script. Doing those would not work. So we want to do scripts. Okay. Now what we want to do is clear it. Now we want to define the player the player services. So what we're going to do is local player service. You do not have to label it as player service. You can also name it as players because that's what the service is called. I have it named as player services for this tutorial. So we want to define what the service is. So game for the game that we're currently in. Then semicolon, or my bad, colon, get service. Then we, in quotation marks, we want to type in players because that's what the service is called, which is right here. Now we want to locate the character that this billboard will be in. So we want to do local character, which would be the player's character, would equal the scripts, which is this, and then the script's parent, which would be billboard, and the script's parent again, which would be the model of the player. Now we want to wait for the humanoid to verify that this character is indeed loaded and indeed able to move. So local humanoid would equal the character we just defined, and then wait for child humanoid. Now what this is going to do is when the character is defined, we're going to wait for a humanoid, for a humanoid to be loaded into the game of the character. That way we can indeed verify the character has loaded in and is ready to move. Now we want to get the player. So the way to be able to identify the player from the characters, we want to do we want to type in the player service. For this tutorial, it would be player services, or you have it as players. Then we would do semicolon or colon. I get those mixed up. I do apologize. Get player from character, and then we want to put in the character. Now we want to verify that the character was indeed a player. So we're going to put if player doesn't equal nil, then. That way, when this is defined, if it found the player that the character belongs to, it will return player. If not, it will return nil. We want to make sure it does not equal nil. Now, we want to achieve the player's username and the player's role, or rank, whatever you prefer to call it. Now, what we want to do is define the player's rank in the group. What we want to do is do local group rank equals. Now we want to use the player that we just got and do get rank in group. Now here is where you will put your group's ID so we can achieve the rank. Your group ID will show up here. What you want to do is just take from my group aspect, grid or group ID, and then after the equals is what the group ID is. We want to take that, go and do Roblox Studio again, and paste that right there. Now we want to get the player's username. So we will do local username, if you spell it right, equals player dot name. If we were to do the character's name, it could easily get changed and modified and we would get the wrong username. Now we want to verify that the group rank was there. If the group rank equals nil, aka not available, it would return NIL in the text. We don't want that. If the group rank doesn't equal nil, then, I put group, we're supposed to put group rank. Now we want to be able to tell the server we want to change this. Now to do that, we want to do scripts dot parents, which we have now just defined this, and we do dot frame. We're now here and we're almost there. We need to just define the rank. Dot rank. Now we have defined the rank. Now we want to tell it the text. Dot text equals, and then group rank. Now, if the rank wasn't defined and we need to hide it or change it, we could do else instead of and. But we still have to have the and. End. My apologies. Now we want to take this text and just simply Control C or copy and then paste it, or Control V. This will be what is pasted if the group rank is invalid. we just simply want to change this to guest. As you can see, it will return guest if this does not exist. Now we want to do simply the same thing here. Simply just copy and paste it. Scripts, parents, frame. Instead of it saying rank, we want to do username. And then instead of group rank, we want to do username. That way, the text for this is set to username, and the text for this is set to this or this if it's invalid. Now what we need to do is take this billboard GUI, put it under starter characters. So simply just put it there, and we're almost done. We're not quite done yet. Afterwards, we want to do under this, we want to do script.parents. We have now selected this, and we're going to do equals. Now we're setting where this will go. We want to do character weight for the child of the player's head, so we can place it there. Now, since I believe we finished this, so now we're going to test it to make sure. If it works correctly, it's a bit too high, we can lower it, we can fix it. The issue I made is I defined the number. We want to change that. Let's go ahead and change rank to roll. Rank to roll. Oops. Roll. Basically just replace all the ranks with rolls. And then what we want to do here is lower this from 2.5 to simply 0.5. A bit too low, maybe not 0.5, simply 1.5. That's about right. Just about right. I believe I did something wrong. Let me go ahead and try to set that to this. Strange. We also want it to also be always on top. And we don't want it to be light influence, which means it will change depending what kind of light it has. I'm trying to figure out the issue with this at the moment. So if you would please give me one moment to figure this out. Because it should not be doing this. It should say above the player's head, which is strange. Let's verify where this is getting placed. I believe it's getting placed in the wrong spot. Yes, right there. Indeed, it's getting placed in the wrong spot. It's not being placed in the head where it's supposed to be. As you see, since I've modified it from what I originally had intended, it's been indeed changed. So let's go ahead and change these back. And then change this to 2.5. As you can see, now it's above the head where we want it. And then we want to do maybe 4, possibly 5. You just want to experiment to make sure you get what you feel like is necessary. As you can see, I got it just above my head. For the purpose of this, I'm just going to copy this and then paste it into here and then remove our old one. Actually, apparently a script was not carried over. Let's see here. Whoops. The issue was that we went to set the parent of the script. We wanted to set the parent of this. Simply just add another parents. That should fix the issue. Now we have successfully gotten what we wanted. To verify that this works, instead of just returning founder like it is in my group, let's just simply go to a game. For example, Badamo. I'm not in the group. We could just simply copy the ID from the address bar and go into our script and set the group ID. Now it says I'm a guest. You can easily change this to non-member or whatever you please. If you wish to make it invisible, to make it as if the player has no place to be, just simply define the rank, which is this. Then we want to set it to dot visible, and then we want to make it false. And that's pretty much it. If I can actually get it. We'll just simply make this like that. I believe making it invisible is weird. Okay. Since we did get the group role, let me go ahead and undo this. Let me check the changes back to guest. Alright, what we want to do here actually is, since we're getting the role, a role guest is actually a thing, so we can't just tell them they're a guest. So what we want to do is if group role equals guest, and then we're gonna do else and then add an and then we simply want to paste our code we had before right here, and then we just want to take our else code and put it here. As you can see, there's now a duplicate of this there and there, and then our original code is here. That way, if the player is a guest, also known as not in the group, it will run this piece of code. And just like how it would do here if the player isn't in the group, or the group couldn't return anything. And if they're not a guest, it will set their role. Now, it should now be invisible, and now it just says my name. It works. It stays above my head. It moves around. It shrinks when it's too far away. The one last thing I wish to show you, if you want to hide this from the player that has the name tag, you simply want to do script parents to select the parent of this. Then we want to go down to here, player to hide from. So we want to do player to hide from. We want to do equals and then player. That way, when a player loads in, the player does not see it, but it's still there. So if we were to go into test mode, to load into test mode, which would simulate as if this was a real game that players could join. Whenever each player will load, they will get their unique billboard GUI or overhead GUI. Give it a sec to load here. So if you enter test mode, you will now see a server which just holds what's here. Then we now have player 1 and player 2 as defined. As you can see, player 1 has the name tag GUI. The humanoid is still enabled, and I almost forgot about that, so I do truly apologize for anything I miss or mistaken in here. And as you see, player 2, or player, which this is player, does not have a name tag, but player 1 does. If we were to switch to player 1, you can see player 2 has a name tag, and it shrinks and scrolls away as it should. Now let's hit the cleanup button, which should get rid of all the players and the server. Let's go back into our script, and let's go ahead and actually do here. Since we did define the humanoid earlier, we want to do humanoid dot sorry, I don't know how to spell it. Humanoid. You can always make the class that I've added in this to verify what you're typing is correct. So what we're doing is we're changing this, this, and this. So we're going to do display distance type, and we're going to do none. So we're going to use the Roblox's enum. So enum dot display humanoid display distance type dot none. That way, if we just typed in none, it would work, but this is more preferred as this is Roblox's method. You can always just simply type in none. It is cap sensitive, so make sure you have that capital N. But for now, I'm going to have this here. Simply, it's basically the same thing for this and this. So humanoid dot health display type equals enum humanoid health display type dot always off. Or you can simply just type always off. Just like that. Now the last thing we need to change is humanoid dot name a collision equals enum name a collision no a collision. I do apologize if I'm butchering that. Or you could simply put no collision, just like so. But I prefer to use the enum because it's more of a validation. Now, if we were to go back into test mode for 2 people, as a local server, we should now see only one of the player's username. And that now that the player's too far away, we can easily see that the name tag actually disappears if we're too far away from the player. As you heard, the players are spawning in, and there you go, the finished product. We now have the name tag. It says player 1 because that's who it is, player 1. We have the rank missing because they're not in a group. These are test players, so they don't have a user ID. And we've made it to be above the player's head. It's kind of high, but you expect the players to have hats. Not always, but you can always easily change this to how you please and how you want it to look. You can easily change the color, the text, or even the size. You can even make it bigger. You can even make it without the role. You don't have to have the role. But this is just what I prefer and how I can show you how to do it just the same. Thank you for watching my tutorial, and I hope this really helped you a lot. If you find any issues or you need more assistance, go ahead and leave me a comment below the description. I will be glad to help you. Thank you for watching.